quote unquote bad or good things are, is what's happening in our hospitals, because that's really what we're all trying to do here. We go back to the spring and flattening the curve. And as our chart showed, we did flatten the curve. Now we need to keep that curve reasonably flat so we're not impacting our healthcare facilities in a negative way. And what we see in this visual here is that from the week of September 11th to the week of September 18th, we do see an increased presence in our hospitals of folks with COVID. I don't want to alarm anybody. I don't believe that our hospitals are on the verge of being overwhelmed or anything. They're doing quite fine. But it does demonstrate to us that there is an uptick in these numbers. And for that reason, we need to continue to be attentive. We need to be on top of this, and we need to all be doing the best that we can to live our lives in the way that we need to do what we need to do as families, to keep our businesses open, to keep our industries running, but put in place those common sense mitigation measures where we can in order to help keep these numbers low. That's it for this week, Commissioner. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that update. I also wanted to note, I believe it was yesterday, the Tower Health Reading Hospital posted that they had their 500th COVID-19 patient treated, recovered, and released. And that is another bit of very good news. A lot of times we don't hear much in the way of data on recoveries, but that was one thing we were very glad to see yesterday.
Yep, and absolutely, that I think you raised an excellent point, and I try to emphasize both the good news and the bad news in the weekly report, but you're definitely right that we sometimes overlook the good news in our community, and that was a great piece of good news. There was some video published. I apologize, I don't have a quick link to help the public get to it, but I'm sure if you search on Tower's website or the local media outlets, you'll be able to find it. There was a very nice video of the ceremony that they had celebrating that 500th recovery. If no one else has questions about the data presentation, I do have one other item I'd like to mention, though.
Sure, go ahead.
That is that yesterday, Pennsylvania released their COVID Alert app. And just as a reminder, this is an app that folks can voluntarily install on their phone. It will run in the background. It uses Bluetooth to sense when your phone is in proximity to another phone that has the app installed, and in essence keeps track of that information in the background. This is not a tracker. It doesn't use GPS. There's no map that shows where you're moving around as a dot that lets people know where you go and what you do. It's merely an app that keeps track of your relative relationship with respect to other people that have the app installed on their phone. The value of this is that if someone who you were in proximity with tests positive for COVID, DOH will be able to send you a notification letting you know that you were in proximity to that person. And I want to just draw kind of a case example of why this could be important. You know, if your best friend gets diagnosed with COVID and DOH contacts them and says, hey, we'd like to reach out to people you've been in contact with, it's likely that your best friend's going to mention that they've been in contact with you. But if you're standing in line at the deli at one of our supermarkets that always seem to take too long to slice our meat and you seem like you're there forever, and you're standing next to a person who's a total stranger, clearly that total stranger would have no opportunity to tell DOH, hey, you might want to reach out to that person I was next to in the deli line. They don't know who you are. They don't know you were there. But through this anonymous data, your phones will understand that they were in proximity to each other. And thanks to that, you'll be able to receive a notification that you may want to have contact with a contact tracer due to the fact that you had a potential exposure for the virus. So look, I'm personally all about privacy. I think there's way too much involvement in technology in our lives. It wigs me out when I have a private conversation with my wife and then I go on Facebook and the first advertisement I see is what my wife and I talked about. But I do want to emphasize that this app is really not it is really not intruding on your privacy. It's not keeping track of your location. It's really very anonymous and using some real kind of, in my opinion, fancy technology to help us be able to make these kind of contacts that we couldn't otherwise make. And again, just go to either the iTunes App Store, or I'm sorry, the Apple App Store, or to the Android Google Play Store, and search for COVID Alert PA, and the app should come up and give you the opportunity to go ahead and install it.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm also going to ask you if you can look and find the link potentially to the Reading Hospital Tower Health information about the 500th patient, and just post that in the chat, and our IS department will see that that's posted up on Microsoft Teams, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, so people watching can have access to that information as well.
Yep, I actually was already able to find that on Tower Health's website, and I'll go ahead and link that. It's the original link that I'm going to provide is just to an article about it, but within the article, There's then another hyperlink to photos and video of the event.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brian. As always, we appreciate the update on the COVID-19 data.
Thank you.
I want to note that we did have 3 executive sessions since our last commissioners meeting. The first one was on September the 17th, dealing with personnel. Again, on September the 18th, dealing with personnel and litigation. And then on September the 23rd, also dealing with personnel and litigation. Are there any additions or corrections for the September 17th Commissioner meeting minutes and September 22nd Operation meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Is there any public comment on specific agenda items?
Crystal Kowalski from Why I'm Missing. Part of her comment is regarding the 2 ordinances that are on the agenda. I can read that part of it and then go back through regular comments and read the other.
That's fine, Mary. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay. Today you will be asked to vote on 2 ordinances that will quite likely further criminalize the act of being poor in Berks County. Will you be reading the ordinances in their entirety? It is very important for the public to hear the duties outlined for both the sheriff's deputies and the DA's office. They clearly show the threat of jail time for non-payment of child support. I am told these are not new duties for our DA or the sheriff's deputies. These are practices that have been in place for years here and elsewhere in the country. Here's a quote from a lawyer representing people faced with these charges in Georgia. Parents who are truly destitute go to jail over and over again for child support debt simply because they're poor. We see many cases in which the person is released, they're given 3 months to pay a large amount of money, and then if they can't do that, they're tossed right back into county jail. The financial support of children and families is of paramount importance in this time of pandemic, economic downturn, and significant unemployment. It is important for governmental bodies to find a way to achieve that in a just and sustainable way.
Okay. Any other comments on agenda items?
I'm looking to see. I do not believe there is.
Okay.
No.
We'll move to the agenda. Item 1, enactment of county ordinance. An ordinance of the County of Berks authorizing Berks County to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between the Berks County Board of Commissioners, the Berks County District Attorney's Office, and the Court of Common Pleas of Berks County Domestic Relations Section to provide legal services specified in the Title 4D Cooperative Agreement at 3.13 and the Attachment B on behalf of Domestic Relations Section. Another ordinance, an ordinance of the County of Berks of Pennsylvania authorizing Berks County to enter into 2 intergovernmental agreements between the Berks County Board of Commissioners, the Berks County Sheriff's Office, and the Court of Common Pleas of Berks County Domestic Relations Section to provide continuous security coverage, maintain and execute bench warrants, and other assigned duties on behalf of the domestic relations sector. I believe those are the two ordinances that Krista was referencing. Am I correct on that? I'm looking at my colleagues or our solicitor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you. Item 2, authorizing. Under that, Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2020 budget transfers in the amount of $104,586 and 2020 appropriations in the amount of $1,967,675 per listing dated September the 21st of 2020. There are two items listed under Human Resources. Item 1, authorize a salary adjustment for Kimberly Santoro, Judicial Coordinator in Court Administration. And item 2, authorize the utilization of a temp agency for a part-time accounting clerk in the Office of Controller. There's several items listed under the Commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of the Memorandum of Agreement between the County of Berks and SEIU Healthcare of PA, amending Article 4, Section 4.2 wages and Article 24 miscellaneous of the existing collective bargaining agreement. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute a subordination, attornment, and non-disturbance agreement between the County of Berks and Vist Bank of Wyomissing, PA, subject to final review and approval by the County Solicitor's Office. The county rents office space from Deeroff Enterprises for MDJ Sheffa. The property, 2 Shoal Drive, Ole Township, is being purchased by J. Fox Properties, LLC. This action is to protect the county's tenancy in the existing space. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the bill of sale for Zettlemoyers Bridge with the Township of Greenwich, Berks County. And at this time, I have the pleasure of turning over the meeting to Commissioner Kevin Barnhart to give some background and details on this item.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and good morning, everyone. The bill of sale is for $1. This is a long time coming. Zettlemoyers Bridge is located in Greenwich Township. The bridge was closed in 2012 based on deteriorating conditions, and it took us nearly 3 years to renegotiate with Greenwich Township. Quite honestly, this is more of a rural needed bridge, not a significant bridge in our inventory. So we wanted to try in some way to turn this over to Greenwich Township. Otherwise, we were going to remove it. And Greenwich Township came to the table in 2015 and said, if you rehabilitate this bridge, we will take it. So today is that day. I want to thank Greenwich Township and their officials and their attorney for really bringing this day forward. The rehabilitation and design started in 2016 under McCormick Taylor, and then construction actually started in 2019 by RoadCon out of Westchester. Work was completed in August of this past summer, included a shutdown of 5 weeks because of COVID. The work included replacement of the truss pins and floor system, replacement of a deteriorated bituminous-filled metal deck pans with a laminated timber deck with bituminous overlay. It gives the bridge flexibility, actually. Blast cleaning and repainting of the existing steel, and all safety features, modern-day safety improvements, for a total cost of $1,674,830. And this is, again, is one of the turnbacks that we have done. We're probably hitting our 6th one with today's, negotiating with our friends in our townships and our boroughs to take these assets once they are either replaced and or rehabilitated. And again, I want to thank Greenwich Township and their officials for coming to the table and really making this happen for the folks who live in Greenwich Township. So thank you for the opportunity to explain in more detail.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart. For those that may not realize, Commissioner Barnhart has been at the forefront of efforts to take bridges that really only have very local utilization And in some cases, and Zettelmoyer was one of them, we were going to eliminate the bridge, but because of the desire of Greenwich Township to keep it, we were able to negotiate. This is, Kevin, the third, fourth, or fifth bridge. I know we're doing it in Muhlenberg. We've done it.
I'd have to go through my list, but it has to be at least the third or fourth, but we still have another one or two in the works.
Right. So it's good. It helps the local community because they get either a brand new bridge or a completely rehabilitated bridge. And it's good for the county because it takes it off the long-term bridge maintenance responsibility for the county.
Thank you.
Continuing on, item D, adopt a resolution authorizing Brian Gottschall, Director of Berks County Emergency Services, to electronically execute the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Federal Fiscal Year 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant Agreement. This is a 50-50 match. The federal grant is in the amount of $109,298 and will be used to enhance and sustain the county's all hazards emergency management capabilities. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the Memorandum of Understanding for e-pledging services between the United Way of Berks County and the County of Berks to establish a working relationship relative to the user of Andar e-pledging system. And this is for the annual United Way fundraising campaign. Item F, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of the collective bargaining agreement between Berks County and the Berks County Deputy Sheriff's Association beginning January 1st of 2021 through December 31st of 2021. Item G, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the location release between Discovery Communication LLC, Weinberger Media, and the County of Berks, granting permission to DLC and Weinberger Media to use certain area in courtroom 5A, Berks County Courthouse, 633 Court Street, Reading, PA, for photography and recording purposes. Item H, adopt a resolution authorizing Brian Gottschall, Director of Emergency Services, to execute a change order to the Motorola Solutions contract in the amount of $1,209,753. This change order modifies the Berks County Public Safety Radio Network infrastructure by implementing coverage on the county's recording solution equipment to provide for biannual refreshers of software and hardware through 2026, and to include an end-to-end hardware refresh of the systems to be covered before December 31st, 2020. The value of the change order includes zero cost for project implementation and will be distributed across the remaining 6 years of the county's annual maintenance costs defined under the contract. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of the contract agreements and amendments as furnished by the contract coordinator is set forth on the attached listing dated September the 22nd of 2020. There are a total of 8 contracts. There are 2 with the Area Agency on Aging. There are 2 with Children and Youth Services. There are 2 with the Commissioners. There's 1 with Information Systems and 1 with Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. And then item 3, a motion to ratify and confirm payments as set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing. It's dated September the 22nd of 2020, and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Second?
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We'll now move to our Berks County Treasurer, Dennis Adams, with the Treasurer's Report.
Good morning.
Good
We
morning.
have an opening balance today of $208,427,743.20. a balance to clear of $4,257,558.89, leaving us with a balance of $203,990,184.31.
Thank you very much. We'll now turn to our Berks County Controller, Sandy Graffius, for the Controller's Report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we have total cash disbursements of $10,762,977.15, and there was no payroll.
Very good. Thank you, Sandy. And now we'll move to Ron Seaman, our Chief Administrative Officer. Ron.
Thank you, Commissioner Linebuck. I'd just like to briefly mention I did download the COVID app from PA yesterday. It's extremely user-friendly. I find it kind of fascinating, and of course, it's relatively new. And I think the indication was there was 9,000 some users when I downloaded mine. So until more people acquire it and it does its thing, it won't be reporting too much, but I would encourage everyone to do it. It's very user friendly. That's
As
all
of
I
yesterday, we got an email, 50,000 people had signed up, including myself. So
okay.
I needed a little help, but I got signed up.
Okay.
Jesse helped me.
Very good. With that, we will turn to Commissioner Kevin Barnhart for the Commissioner's Report.
Good morning. Thank you to my colleagues and everyone who's joined us today. I too want to thank Debbie Oliveri for her many years of dedicated service to our county. She's a dynamic woman, has done an awesome job in election services, and we wish her the best in her future endeavors. We are well supported by Ron Seaman, our Chief Administrative Officer, and the staff at Election Services to see through this election. Debbie has agreed to come back and assist us nights, weekends, as well as Election Day to get us through. There's been a lot of cross-training and will continue to be a lot of cross-training in that department. So Debbie has people ready to slay this election this year and move forward. A couple of very important points. The last day to register for the November election is October 19th. The last day to apply for mail-in civilian or absentee ballot is October 27th. Please don't wait till those dates to apply. It doesn't make any sense. So very important, we are only permitted to accept ballots delivered to the services center by the voter. That means you can't harvest ballots from other people. Votes balloted can be dropped off at the county services center no later than 8 p.m. on election day. Ballots that are mailed must be postmarked by 8 p.m. election day and received in election services by 5 p.m. Friday. That's November 6th. Keep in mind, once the office exports the ballot data, they can no longer process voter requests to cancel their ballot. They will have to take the ballot and declaration to the polling place and complete the elector's declaration to surrender their mail ballot if they want to vote at the polls. Again, don't wait till the last minute to do things when it comes to this election. As of this morning, we had 61,455 applications for mail-in and absentee ballots. And Election Services are looking to have the ballots mailed out by the middle of next week. There was a question, or there's been a question about the canvassing, pre-canvassing. There's been a debate back and forth with the governor and the House and Senate, moving it back to Saturday or moving it out 15 days. At this point, legally, we cannot open those envelopes, those outer envelopes or those security envelopes till the morning of Election Day at 7 a.m. There are still some things floating around out there. Would we strongly encourage the ability to be able to do that legally, open them early? Absolutely. It speeds the process of actually scanning the ballots in, but we do things legally here. And as of this morning, we cannot open these envelopes until Election Day. Why we are incorporating up to 100 employees separated by walls and social distancing at the Doubletree Ballroom on Election Day to encourage to get as many of these envelopes opened and the ballots scanned in. So that is the work being done in Election Services, and my hat's off to the people that work there. They are a great group of people and I know they're going to miss Debbie as well. Cook County Wellness Report for the week. We have to date 1,580 contacts in the database. 360 have refused contact tracing, which is 23%. But when we scale that back to the people that actually refused because it was too late after they got their test results or the test results, our refusal rate's only 13. For the prior week, the database has 244 new contacts. That's about an 18% increase. So there is a good thing to know that there are many cases that are closed. About 34% are closed. There are still about 32% active monitoring. So we get these numbers on a weekly basis. It's important to know. Along with the SMART app now, it's going to make things increasingly critical for the contact tracers in our community. So please, I encourage you. I know people are concerned about anonymity and people having their information, but this is critically important to get us to the finish line with COVID-19 in a safe manner. Very important, this is going to be our weekly media update next Wednesday. We are going to be announcing and making applications available for the CARES Act money. The commissioners have agreed to put out to 4 separate groups, $19 million. I believe Commissioner Rivera will update us on the New Start Business grant process. These are the 4 remaining buckets of money. They will include education, municipalities and/or authorities, the nonprofit sector, and public health. So the applications will be available Wednesday, September 30th. The deadline to submit the application is October 16th. The applications will be reviewed the week of October 20th to the 26th. Then the recommendations will be given to the county commissioners on October 27th. The awards will be announced by the Board of Commissioners on October 29th, and then the monies will be distributed once contracts and paperwork is in place. We're hoping through the month of November so that this money's out in the community serving the public good. So much the same as we used an outside agency to help us with the New Start grant program for businesses, we're going to follow the same protocol with the remaining 4, the education, municipalities, authorities, not-for-profits, and public health. We're going to be having review committees, not the Board of Commissioners, but people involved in these component sectors in the community, review the applications, grade them, and bring them back for our final approval. This is as anonymous as possible. This Board of Commissioners is very committed to not making this a political, hey, your friend's going to get money, but your enemy is not type of thing. There are some caps on the funding, and the reason we did propose funding caps is simply because we don't have enough money to go around. Encouragingly enough, we were on the phone with DCED yesterday. It appears that there will be some additional money coming to the county. We don't know when, how much, but we want to basically make sure that people fill out their application and apply for the maximum amount if that's justifiable with their expenses based on COVID-19. And the review committees will have those that information at their fingertips and have that back to the commissioners by the end of October. So a lot of work being done. I want to thank Ron Seaman, especially Pam Shoop, Stephanie Weaver, Jessica Blauser, Justin Luce, really putting a lot of time and energy into this, spending a lot of sleepless nights trying to make sure this application process, the FAQs, the whole presentation rolls out as error-free as possible. There's a lot of work to be done, and we want to make sure that we have the community support with these groups doing this for us. So I think it's a great plan going forward and get this money out the door where it really belongs. Two quick other things. Census 2020 is winding down. Wednesday is the deadline to submit your census form. The city of Reading is actually doing a census challenge tomorrow. They're doing another census day. They're challenging the city of Lancaster to see which of the 2 third-class cities can have the most census completions. So that's a challenge that Mayor Moran is doing with the mayor of the city of Lancaster. Last but not least, I announced it last week and I'll announce it again. Epler's One Room Schoolhouse fundraiser, pulled pork barbecue. Thursday, October 15th, from 3 to 8 at the Burn Farm. It's a drive-by pickup. It's only $8 per meal, includes the pork and all the fixings. So I do have tickets here, and we're going to basically be sold out. So there won't be tickets available at the Burn Farm. So if you need tickets or information, please contact my office, and I'll be sure and happy to see that you get tickets for this fundraiser for a group that's really doing a great job, one step at a time with Epler's One Room Schoolhouse. Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, for the time to explain some things here this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnhart, and we'll move now to Commissioner Michael Rivera for your report.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and thank you, Commissioner Barnhart, for all the valuable information that you shared this morning with us. A few things I want to go over. Talking about elections which are coming up, I will be hosting a show this Sunday at 9 a.m. It's in Spanish, but it's on Roomba 92.3. So if anyone that is watching this speaks Spanish, please join me this Sunday at 9 a.m. and we'll be talking about the electoral process, how to register, what are your options for voting, and some other valuable information in reference to the elections on November 3rd. One to mention that the New Start Grant program closed yesterday at 11:59 p.m. We did have an overwhelming response to this grant, so we did have many applications. I don't have the final formal numbers yet. I do have some numbers, but I want to wait until I have the final numbers to go over that. But I can say that it was above what we were anticipating, what we were expecting for this. So what that is showing is that our small businesses do have a great need out there. And this is a very important grant because we need our small businesses to remain open. We need our small businesses to be viable because they are key to our local economy here. So thank you to everyone who helped get the word out. As Commissioner Barnhart said, we may be getting more CARES Act money. If that is the case, we may be able to allocate some more of that for our small businesses to be able to help out more people, more businesses that applied for the grant. At this point, like I said, there's a lot more requests than what we have dollar amount, and I will share that next week with you. But if you do know a business that has under $1 million in revenues, between 2 to 8 employees, and is outside the city of Reading, they still can apply for the Small Business Restart Grant that is still available, and you can apply through the Neighborhood Housing Services of Greater Reading website, or you can go to doyourpartberks.com, and there's a link there. Again, doyourpartberks.com, and there's a link there to the Small Business Restart Grant program. The Restart Grant program does not have a closing date yet, and there still are funds available in that specific one. But the New Start Grant has closed, and they're working on getting all the information together, compiling the information. Then at that point, the applications will be reviewed and the awardees will be determined. The same as within the other 4 categories, the Board of Commissioners will not be deciding who receives these grants. The grant is administered through Community First Fund and a third party that is taking care of this. We will see the information, but no names. It will all be blanked out. And then the check should be coming out sometime in October. But again, we are not making any decisions on who will be getting or not getting the grant. This will be made by an independent third party. We want to make sure that there's transparency and that it's fair to everyone that is involved in the process. The Berks County Solid Waste Authority is holding a household hazardous waste collection on October 24th and 25th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is a drive-through event only, and it is by appointment only. So you cannot show up there without an appointment. You'll have everything in your car. You open the trunk, they take it out, and you move along. To register for this event, you can go to the Solid Waste Authority's page on the county's website, and there is a link there that asks you to register. When you click on that link, it'll say to either register for Saturday or for Sunday. Sorry, I didn't had heard Commissioner Steinbach there a moment. So if you have any household hazardous waste collection, please don't throw it in the trash. Sign up for the waste collection on October 24th and 25th. And this is only for Berks County residents. And I also want to wish Debbie Oliveri the best in her new role. She's been with the county for many, many years, and we appreciate all the hard work and dedication that she has put into making election services run smoothly and making sure that all the elections have run with integrity and in the best way possible. So thank you, Debbie, and best wishes. And Commissioner Leinbach, back to you.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that glitch there. I have just several items I want to go over. Number one, I continue to get questions from people asking, is there going to be in-person voting? And I know we've been clear about this, but I want to reiterate, there is the option for people to do mail-in ballots. And we've talked about that quite a bit. Very easy to do, but there will also be in-person voting on election day. The county has done everything it needs to do to prepare to keep in-person voting as safe as possible. We have the PPE in place that is necessary for our volunteers. We will be sanitizing the polling places before we open, and we'll be sanitizing the polling place when we leave and have wrapped up the election. So voting, you can vote by mail, you can vote in person, it is your choice. Secondly, I want to highlight that yesterday we launched a campaign promoting getting a flu vaccine, and this is a joint campaign with Tower Health Reading Hospital and Penn State St. Joe's, as well as the Berks County Medical Society. I'm going to ask IS if you could go to YouTube and place the link to that program up for those that are watching on Microsoft Teams, as well as Facebook and YouTube, so they have access to that program. We'll be doing a lot more in the coming weeks to promote the value of getting a flu vaccine, especially this time around. I encourage you to take the time to listen to that program. Secondly, I also want to thank Debbie Oliveri for her years of leadership with the county and the elections department. I think we maybe have not announced this, but we are not placing an interim director in charge. Ron Seaman, as the Chief Administrative Officer, is going to be overseeing that. We have the staff. There's a great article in the paper today, and Debbie Oliveri makes it very clear she has complete confidence, and we have complete confidence in the staff to do what needs to be done to guarantee that this election is a secure election and that the results will be reliable. Also, I want to note, and I'm actually going to ask Brian Gottschall to follow up my comment on this area. Yesterday morning, I participated in a National Association of Counties Northeast U.S. call, and one of the items on the agenda was a discussion of COVID-19 vaccination preparedness. And Blair Bryant from the National Association of Counties shared a lot of information, primarily this, that the federal government is working with every single state to have those states put together a preparedness plan for the COVID-19 vaccine when it is available. That communication is occurring and has been occurring here in Pennsylvania between our Department of Health and various counties. And in a minute, I'm going to ask Brian to just talk about what that preparation actually is. Blair Bryant also noted that there is a debate as far as when the vaccine will actually be available. There is the possibility that it could be available as early as October or November, but if it is, it will be in limited supply. If it's later, it will likely be in limited supply. So they also highlighted what is the prioritization. So when it's available, who gets it first? And this is consistent, I believe, in my discussions with Brian, with what we're hearing from the Pennsylvania Department of Health and what I heard yesterday through the National Association of Counties at the federal level. The number one priority will be the first line healthcare workers, those working in our healthcare system. That could be hospitals, clinics, as I understand, nursing homes, facilities, etc. Number two will be first responders, fire, police, EMS, etc. And number three will be those individuals that are most at risk, and that will be the elderly and those with underlying health conditions. I want to assure the public that these conversations with the state and the county and our partners have been going on for some time, and for a little bit more detail on those discussions and the plan. And I think, Brian, there's a deadline of like early October that the state has to actually have its plan back to the federal government. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I think you covered a lot of that, covered a lot of the ground that I would have otherwise covered. We do not have visibility on the state process, as you've intoned. That is a state obligation, and they're obligated to provide that plan to the state. So I think the more salient question for this meeting is, what is our role? As you know, we've been working with DOH for weeks now in understanding what their expectations are of local governments. When we first started down this road, our concern, and I say that with a lot of honesty, our concern was that DOH was going to say that this process was going to take place through mass community prophylaxis in a 100% environment. In essence, that we would be expected to be responsible for the distribution of 100% of the vaccine in our community using community points of dispensing, which are detailed in our Strategic National Stockpile Plan. I'm glad that DOH has come back and indicated to us that the national strategy is going to be distribution through normal healthcare channels. So no different than you might go to Target or Rite Aid or any other commercial operation or your doctor's office in order to get a vaccination. That is the national vision for how the COVID vaccine is going to be distributed. The local government responsibility is going to be focused on a couple key areas. Number one, what I refer to as vanguard vaccinations, the early first vaccinations that are going to be going out to critical workers. And even that is a limited responsibility, because critical workers, of course, including those that you talked about in hospitals, nursing homes, places like that, they're going to get their vaccinations in their critical facility, because obviously a healthcare facility has the capability to administer their own vaccinations to their employees. However, when you think about folks like law enforcement, fire service providers, places that are affiliated with those healthcare operations or emergency responder operations, but don't have their own internal medical capability, those folks are going to be directed to a community point of dispensing. And then after that, as the vaccine becomes more commonly available and is being given to every citizen that has an interest in securing the vaccine, we recognize that there's a component of our society that doesn't generally have normal access to the healthcare system, probably because of social or economic demographics. We need to make sure that those folks have an equal opportunity to be able to secure vaccine. So that is where our planning is focused right now. We've had multiple meetings with state DOH to look at facilities that we've proposed to get this done, and we're putting together the planning for that process as we speak. There are challenges with this. If somebody just said, well, you know, there's going to be as much vaccine as you need, and you should estimate this percentage of your community or the ones that you're going to have to address, it would be much easier. The reality is that we're very much operating in a vacuum, knowing when we're going to get vaccine, how much we're going to get in any given distribution, even what type of vaccine. Right now, of the 3 most likely vaccine candidates in the nation, 2 of them are a 2-administration vaccine. In essence, you go for your first shot, and then 30 days later, you have to get a booster. The 3rd most likely candidate vaccine is a single-shot administration. So we don't know what if, well, hopefully at least one, hopefully all of them, are going to cross the FDA emergency use authorization hurdle. And then if that is the case, we don't know what is going to be assigned to Pennsylvania. So just that one major issue of, are we going to have to get, John Smith, let's look at one person who needs to get the vaccine. John Smith, is he going to need 1 shot or a shot and then another shot within 30 days? As you can imagine, that brings a lot of complexity, particularly when we're talking about aspects of our society that don't normally have the ability to access healthcare. They may be folks who are more difficult to keep track of and to encourage to come back for that second administration. We're working through all of those kind of challenges as we speak. And the honest answer is, I don't have real good answers because I don't have real good information from State Department of Health. All I can do is assure you that we're engaged with them. We're working through the challenges. We've actually brought to them a couple things where they've said, wow, it's good you brought that up. We didn't talk about that. So to their credit, they're getting engaged with those of us kind of on the front lines and hearing the kinds of concerns that we might have in an effort to try to address those questions also.
I think it's also important, Brian, that in this particular case, we're not always on the same page with what we hear from the federal government and what we hear from the state. But it appears, based on the conversations really yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon with some of our local healthcare professionals, that the message is pretty consistent from the state and the federal government. The timing is, and by timing, getting the plan together, reporting back, is consistent. One of the other issues, though, that came up on the call yesterday morning is the storage of the vaccine. Now, I think there are different temperature requirements potentially for different vaccines, but we heard yesterday a temperature requirement as low as -70 Fahrenheit. That's not necessarily readily available refrigeration in our community. Has there been any discussion on the refrigeration of the vaccine or freezing?
Yeah, so in reference to some of what you're talking about there, some of the vaccine candidates require ultra cold storage. Obviously, as you can imagine, they don't take it out of the vial at -100 degrees Fahrenheit and inject it into your arm. So that storage is really about long-term storage and transportation. The vaccine is brought out of cold storage for the purpose of administration and has a shelf life. So the good news is, I get to say, not my problem. I'm not the one that has to worry about the cryogenic maintenance of the vaccine. That's a state DOH issue. And what's going to happen is they're going to allocate vaccine out to us on an as intended for use basis. So in other words, it will come out of that cold storage, be provided to us by DOH in a time frame of expected usage, and then we only have to worry about storing that vaccine in reasonable conditions, if you will, not at the ultra low temperatures that you're talking about were being discussed on your call yesterday. That actually kind of, I don't want to get too much into detail here and bore everybody, but that does dovetail into one of the other logistical concerns. We can't just say, give us 2,000 doses of vaccine and we'll see who shows up. So part of our work that we're already doing is reaching out to critical delivery paths like fire, like EMS, like healthcare, and asking them 2 questions. Not only how many people do they have, but also asking them to survey their employees and ask how many people they have are going to be willing to take the vaccine. And we understand that's a tentative answer right now because there's not a vaccine in front of us. We can't necessarily make educated decisions about whether we're comfortable with how it got to market and all those kind of things. And we respect that there are going to be people out there who are likely going to say, I'm not interested. Well, once it's available, I don't like the process. I don't believe in it. For whatever their personal reasons are, we recognize that there will be people who will say no. So we're already laying the groundwork to try to understand what the total population impact might be, as well as, and when I say population, I mean the population of those Vanguard recipients, as well as of that total population, what are the numbers that we really ought to be planning for because they're likely to accept the vaccine when offered.
Thank you very much, Brian. I do think it's important that we get good, reliable information out to our residents here in Berks County. The report that you give each week is part of that, but I felt it was very important to share this information since we were involved in discussions on this just yesterday, and you've been working on this for a number of weeks.
No, I appreciate that, Commissioner. I think we just shared a lot of information there, and to avoid any confusion and kind of tie it all up in a bow, while it is detailed, while it may be interesting to some and boring to others, I think the walk away for the average citizen who might be listening to this is that as vaccine becomes available in our community, unless you fit some special group, the likely answer is that your pathway to get that vaccine will be very similar to the pathway that you get your annual influenza vaccine. You'll go to a commercial outlet or your doctor's office and be able to access the vaccine in that manner.
Thank you very much, and that is a good way to wrap that up. That also wraps up my comments this morning. I'd like to give an opportunity to any of our row officers if you have any comments. Hearing none, we will move to public comment, and I'll turn to my executive assistant, Mary Buer. If you can please share the public comments that we have on today's meeting.
Okay, the first is John Archer, Spring Township. Arguments against the use of voter ballot drop-off boxes. The first and foremost goal of this November's election must be to have an honest and secure ballot processing system. If this goal is unable to be realized, then the expectations of qualified voters to have their votes counted in a legitimate manner will not be met. This would result in a fraudulent election and ensuing chaos. Any implementation of a revised voting system which provides an opportunity to jeopardize this goal has to be rejected. An impaired election is really no election. Unfortunately, the implementation of multiple ballot drop-off boxes only works to diminish any chance of achieving the goal of a secure election. Those who are backing such a concept would have to have gained their motivation from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals in order to win at any cost, with the ends justifying the means. With election security being the goal of any of the boards of elections processes, which comprises the A, voter registration, B, ballot application, and C, ballot casting processes, the processes need to be formulated in a manner that achieves the following high priority objectives. 1, accurately validates the registrations, ballot applications, and ballot casting processes. 2, assures that paper ballots and provisional ballots have complete transparent chain of custody and schedule control by only the boards of elections and their judges of elections. 3, promotes efficiency and cost effectiveness. 4, provides the ability to have a readily time-proven and easy voter verification process by the Board of Elections and any designated observers. 5, enables a smoother overall Board of Elections handling process by flattening the curve of the various arriving documents at the Board of Election, including the voter registration requests, ballot applications, and ballot collections. By minimizing the number of large bulks of ballots arriving at one time, there is less tendency to overwhelm the Board of Elections. Christopher Ellis, Reading. Berks District Attorney's press conference yesterday happened during the Breonna Taylor press conference. He determined that justified force was used by Reading police to shoot Roxanne Moore, a Black trans woman. They shot at her 16 times, despite initial reports of once by Chief Torrinelli. Adams also stated that when police, we still don't know the names of the officers who shot her, came on the scene, they immediately brandished their weapons, shouted a command, then shot. There was no attempt at de-escalation. And yes, Roxanne had a gun. It turns out this gun was unable to even fire. She was having a mental episode, and her mental health was known to the authorities prior to this incident. No attempt at connecting with her with any expert on the scene or by the police was attempted. They immediately went to deadly force because they determined she was going to fire, except she wasn't and couldn't. Any attempt at de-escalation may have determined this. We have seen multiple instances of police attempting de-escalation in the past. That there was none here is incredibly distressing. DA Adams refused to release the footage of street cameras or body camera footage, but did release a still which can tell 1,000 lies, claiming it is an ongoing investigation. And yet he released footage in the Stanley Gracious case. Adams also continued to dead name Roxanne in official paperwork, claiming this is right and proper. It is a slap in the face. Media outlets have continued to dead name her. The mental attacks continue long after the physical attacks have ended. The Berks DA once said to WHYY, "Do you think Reading is a nice community?" His determinations involving Reading residents are tainted, period. He should hand this investigation over to the state DA, release all footage, release the 911 call that claimed shots, and name the officers who shot her. Anything less shows bias in this matter. Crystal Kowalski, why I'm missing. The front page of the Reading Eagle today was a disturbing thing to wake up to. It reported that shooting a person 16 times for holding a firearm is considered reasonable force under Pennsylvania law. It is also reported that killing an innocent Black woman sleeping in her bed doesn't warrant murder charges. To clarify, the front page was disturbing, not surprising. The discord is not surprising to the authorities either. Louisville, Kentucky declared a state of emergency before they released the announcement that the police officers would not be charged with murder. All of these instances profess that the people in power have no intention of changing the status quo. This lack of justice can be seen in everyday circumstances as well. Today you will be asked to vote on 2 ordinances, and I have already read the remainder, the balance of Crystal's comments regarding the ordinances. Irene Jadick, why I'm missing. Dear Commissioners, at Berks Stand Up, we discuss with a lot of voters in our canvassing campaign, and we see a lot of justified confusion regarding the procedure of counting mail and absentee ballots. We ask you to publish on your website a clear procedure and flow chart of how this counting will go. If there are issues that are still unclear, say so in writing. If there are lawsuits or legislation pending, say so in writing. You have the obligation to eliminate this confusion. Making a flow chart is not rocket science, and it will also help you troubleshoot the steps of the counting process. In watching your meetings, we see that you are more concerned in pushing blame around mainly to Governor Wolf. Organizing elections is your responsibility, and the fact that so close to an election, We still do not have a publicized written procedure is unacceptable. Liz Cates, Bern Township. New Fortress Energy has proposed a business model that will bring liquefied natural gas through Berks County via train and truck. It is highly flammable and explosive should it leak. Will each of you commit to trying everything within your power to keep this product from traversing the county? Roxandra Jadick, why missing? The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has approved the use of drop boxes. Commissioner Barnhart has expressed on multiple occasions his reluctance to install drop boxes. We ask you to reconsider that position. One very good example of places that need drop boxes are nursing homes. The Highlands at Wyomissing has approximately 400 registered voters, out of which close to 300 have applied for mail ballots. These numbers alone justify installing a drop box for a multitude of reasons. Please reconsider your position regarding drop boxes. Risa Marmontello, Amity Township. Good morning, gentlemen. Does Berks County intend to appoint an interim election director to replace Deborah Oliveri? Jane Palmer, why missing? Commissioners, this concerns District Attorney Adams and his announcements yesterday that the shooting of Roxanne Moore was a justified use of force. Do you understand how many in our community are upset and angry about how this case is being handled? Roxanne is a person known by the police to struggle with mental illness, and yet nothing was done to de-escalate the situation on September 13. Instead, she was met with 16 gunshots, 16, before, according to the DA, officers recognized she was wounded. 11 days later, she remains in critical condition. The DA has seen fit not to recognize her as a trans woman named Roxanne Moore, continually referring to her by her dead name, the name she used before she transitioned. This is disrespectful and cruel, as is the fact that the DA has allowed to frame the story since day one, saying she wreaked havoc and pistol whipped a man. It is absurd to call shooting someone having a mental health crisis 16 times justifiable use of force. This decision coming the same day as the egregious Breonna Taylor decision, and on the heels of the DA lying about how many shots were fired and his department's continual disrespect of Roxanne and her family, makes it impossible for the community to believe that justice will be served. Adrian Jadick, why I'm missing. Dear Commissioners, I see an increased confusion of the terminology used in the mail ballot processing. One thing is the mailing envelope, which contains the personal statement with signature, and another thing is the actual ballot, which is in the secrecy envelope. Opening the mail ballot does not mean opening the mailing envelope. As we understand from various conversations with election services, this confusion has resulted in a plan to open both envelopes on election day. This is absurd. The election envelopes should be open as they arrive and the validity of the contest established ASAP. Once everything checks out, the secrecy ballot should be placed in a voting urn that will be opened on election day. If for some reason the mail ballot is invalidated, naked ballot, missing signatures, etc., that invalidation notice should be immediately posted on the PA Department of State and the voter informed by email if available. The voter will then have a chance to vote in person. Also, if we only have to open one envelope and scan the ballot, this task could be easily finished by end of election day. Please eliminate this confusion by publishing a clear step-by-step procedure of the mail ballot counting process. David Del Negro, West Reading. Good morning, Commissioners. Recent reports are suggesting a plateau of the recent economic recovery with worries of a backslide with flu season coming. Do you have any current or prospective plans to both help increase flu shot numbers and or support an economic seesaw? Stay safe. Saeed Ahmed from Why I'm Missing. There are several reports that Republicans are recruiting 50,000 volunteers in 15 key states to monitor polling places and challenging ballots and voters deemed suspicious. The reason provided is to prevent fraud. But if there is no evidence of any type of fraud, but in fact, there is no evidence of any type of fraud, what others are fearing is that these volunteers may intimidate prospective voters, particularly in Democratic areas. In the early 20th century, such volunteers, sometimes armed, intimidated Black voters and kept them from voting. What protection are you taking so that such intimidation doesn't occur in Berks County? Melvia Ahmed. First, I would like to express my thanks for Debbie Oliveri's years of service to Berks County. In regards to our weekly COVID-19 report, I would like to hear more information about the severe symptoms during hospitalization and during recovery. Since the CDC has explained that some of the recommendations released were politically advised and did not include all the appropriate recommendations of the CDC epidemiologists, such as testing asymptomatically exposed people, I think it should be clearly understood what health risks our fellow citizens are being exposed to when they don't wear a mask in crowded situations. According to Dr. Fauci, 15 minutes with a mask on in the presence of COVID-19 is enough to pose a health risk. Amy Louise Levengood, Amity Township. Hello, Commissioners. First of all, thank you to Debbie Oliveri for her many years of service. Eventually, there will be a vaccine for COVID-19, possibly by spring 2021, according to Drs. Fauci and Redfield. Yesterday, in his testimony on Capitol Hill, CDC Director Dr. Redfield announced the release of funds to various jurisdictions. If I read this correctly, PA will be getting a little over $6 million for vaccine preparedness, and she gives the website for a chart. Furthermore, Redfield suggested that state microplans for vaccine distribution should be ready by October 16th. Philadelphia is one of the jurisdictions Redfield cited as having already done microplanning in conjunction with the CDC. A primary concern is the logistics of storing and distributing a COVID-19 vaccine. Some candidates for a vaccine being developed by companies like Moderna and Pfizer will require ultra low temperatures, as low as -94 degrees Fahrenheit. In your estimation, what is the county's preparedness level to maintain and distribute a COVID-19 vaccine safely? What is the chain of command, and what role will county government play? I have an anonymous, believe it's from Louise Grimm. The election results should not be divulged until all mail-in ballots are counted, lest the results of precinct voting become a fait accompli and cause doubt in the results of the election. Jess Royer, Spring Township. Good morning, Commissioners. It has been mentioned that there is a Restart grant funding available for education and nonprofit organizations. I know that there are school districts and school librarians all around Berks County that are currently dealing with new expenses for ebooks and digital resources for students. In some instances, school librarians are working with local public libraries to facilitate and enhance partnerships where digital materials can be shared among libraries and patrons. School libraries would seem to fit within the revenue and number of employees guidelines. Could they apply for Restart grant funding to offset additional expenses that arise due to increased reliance on digital resources by students? On the topic of drop boxes and their security, could the county make available staffed, temporary, and pre-scheduled drop-off locations around the county, as the sheriff office does for the third week of each month, to process firearms permits? Surely the ability to vote in elections is as or more important to carry a fire alarm than to carry a fire alarm. This alleviates the concerns that unintended drop boxes lack security, as they would be monitored by county employees. If the county sheriff can spend a whole week each month going to boroughs and townships outside of Reading, election services could send an employee along to receive ballots. Thank you. Becky Ellis, Reading. Good morning, commissioners. For the past several weeks, I have attended the Thursday morning weekly commissioners meeting, and I have heard complaints against police departments throughout Berks County addressed by the commissioners as being the jurisdiction of the municipality in which the police department resides. The issue that I bring before you this morning is well within your jurisdiction to make corrective and influential change. In a press conference yesterday afternoon, District Attorney John Adams released a statement saying that the shooting was a reasonable use of force justified under the law with regards to the police shooting of Roxanne Moore. In his statement, DA Adams used Ms. Moore's dead name, which has been blasted out by various news outlets in the past 24 hours, including WEEU, Berks Weekly, the Reading Eagle, CBS 53 out of Philadelphia, just to name a few, since they are quoting exactly what DA Adams stated. Dead naming is the use of the birth or other former name of a transgender or non-binary person without their consent. Dead naming is a form of violence. DA Adams has done this on several occasions to Roxanne Moore, subjecting her to harassment and discrimination. Transgender women of color are already marginalized, but by allowing DA Adams' actions to continue, you are perpetuating violence against an entire marginalized group of people, not just Roxanne Moore. There is a direct relationship between experiencing discrimination, racist and transphobic events, and depression. DA Adams' actions by dead naming Roxanne Moore is only compounding the effects of this discrimination every time he makes a public comment regarding Roxanne Moore. Also, DA Adams is withholding body camera footage regarding the events that took place the morning of September 13. His excuse for withholding it is weak at best. When I read between the lines, I read, "It will be released when this blows over." When I walked past the police tape during my morning walk on September 13, I asked an officer what had happened. I was told that it was a privacy issue by an officer on scene. It may be a privacy issue for the police, since DA Adams stated that there was a history of mental health issues, and therefore he and the responding police officers knew Roxanne Moore. With that stated, why was a counselor not dispatched with the police? What is DA Adams trying to cover up? Why is the County of Berks, headed by the Berks County Commissioners, not doing anything to combat systemic racism by making the needed changes to hold the DA accountable for his inappropriate actions? Thank you. And I believe that is the end of the comments for the meeting. Thank you.
We will close the comments at this time. I'm going to make one comment, and then I am going to turn it over to Brian Gottschall to address the New Fortress Energy LNG gas issue and his role in overseeing hazmat for the county. It is a little disturbing listening to some of the comments on law enforcement. Not that not questioning your right to comment in this forum. You can address anything that you want. But if you really care about the issue, you would address these to the people that have oversight. And Becky Ellis, you know better. You know that the district attorney is elected by the public. You know that the commissioners cannot direct any other elected official what they can or cannot do. They answer to the voters. If you have an issue with the district attorney, I suggest you go to him and talk to him, reach out to him through email. If you have an issue with local police, go to the municipalities that hire those police and that oversee those police departments. The county of Berks does not, as county commissioners, have a law enforcement role outside of a limited role with the Berks County Jail, a limited role with the detectives in the DA's office, and a limited role with the sheriffs. Why? Because of 1620 rights. The sheriff, as an elected official, the DA as an elected official, has the right to hire, fire, and manage as they see fit within the context of the law. But if you have issues, raise those issues to those people. Raise the issues to the individuals that have the authority, the responsibility. Talk to city council. The city council and the mayor oversee the Reading Police Department. But let me give one other warning. You may not have all the information. Maybe do a little bit of research and find out in some of these cases, especially the case you're referencing here in the city of Reading. Mental health is a major issue in our country. We've talked about it before. It is not being properly addressed. And I believe if you dig into this case, you will find that there was an opportunity to address this issue before this incident occurred. And if it had been addressed appropriately, there's a very good chance this would not have happened. Again, anyone has a right to, within reason, post comments that you believe are important. But I want to reiterate, we can't correct what another elected official is doing that you believe is wrong. You need to contact them. And in the case of local police, you need to go to the municipality that has the contractual relationship with that department. In the case that everyone's raising today, that would be the city of Reading. With that, Commissioner Barnhart.
I want to cover two comments about elections and as well as the New Start grant program that Jess Royer commented on. The Board of Elections has agreed to look into the possibility of a additional ballot drop box at the Ag Center. We're working out the details on that. It'll be available on Election Day. We do have a security agent there to handle that process. There must be only one ballot drop per person coming to a drop box, so we'll have that secured at the Ag Center. We recognize there are some issues with parking downtown or the distance that people may have to travel from the outer reaches of the county, but that other drop box will be available on Election Day at the Agricultural Center. Again, we respond to the needs of the community. We do not have the resources to have elections workers, pray tell, go out and stand by a box. We don't have extra deputy sheriffs to stand by boxes for weeks on end at convenient places for the voter, but we have agreed to certainly do this at our agriculture center. We know we'll be safe and secure. The other question, we do not post results until the polls close. There's no physical way to do that. When the data is brought in and uploaded into the system, it's probably near midnight before we simply have the machine results. So as in the primary, that was about half of the votes cast. So if you were up at midnight and looked on the website and saw the unofficial results of the election, that was the machine only. Our goal is to have the paper ballots, whether they're mail, absentee, provisional, what have you, done as soon as possible. But this is a Herculean task where we're going to have probably close to 80,000 paper ballots of mail-in, absentee, or provisional. It's a challenge. There's a lot of hand labor, and again, I'm going to be emphatic. Would we like to see the opportunity to open these envelopes sooner? Yes. But as far as today, the court has rendered that we are not legally permitted to open these outer envelopes or the security envelope until Election Day. We are not about to violate the law, as we understand some other counties in the Commonwealth did in the primary. We were blown away. The two counties, which I won't name, actually had the results election night. That is preposterous to think that you could literally open those hundreds of thousands of envelopes and have the results on election night. But you can figure out who those two counties are if you want to do some research. And last but not least, to Jess Royer's comment, yes, we are going to have a full-blown presentation on Wednesday at 3:30 about the applications for schools and not-for-profits. I would encourage you, any of your friends in the community and the library systems, to tune in to recognize the application process. We have been in close touch with Amy Resch, our library system director, over the past few months. She has a real handle on what the libraries have expended since March through this period of time. Again, that does not cover the school type libraries, but again, this opportunity is out there. It's going to be out September 30th through October 16th. So Jess, I would implore you to put this out to as many contacts that you have in the community. It's open to everyone. It's going to be an unbiased evaluation of who has been most impacted by COVID-19. I mentioned it in the beginning of the meeting or partway through the meeting. We are not going to be involved in the scoring process. We are basically at the end approving the authorization to disperse the funds and not looking through the applications and determining who should get it and who should not get it. We are empaneling people from the community to help us with that endeavor. So thank you.
If I could, let me recognize Brian Gottschall on the LNG issue. He would like to address that from a hazmat perspective. Brian?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yes, this is with respect to the comment from Liz Cates, and just to remind the viewers, because it was a bit ago that it was read, there were a lot of comments this morning. Liz expressed concern about a plan that would bring liquefied natural gas through Berks County via train and truck. She notes that the material is highly flammable and should it leak, could be explosive, and is asking the commissioners, will you commit to doing everything to keep it from traversing the county? I think that Liz's comments with respect to the hazard of the particular material are very accurate. It is gas, no different than the gas that comes out of your stove. The difference is, in the case of the trains that would potentially carry this material, there's a very large quantity of it being stored in a cryogenic state. Again, we talked about that in our vaccines, the very low temperature. When that gas releases, the expansion ratio of that from the very cold liquid to a standard temperature and pressure gas means that a small amount of liquid creates a large volume of gas. So the material itself that's inside the car is no different than, as I said, what's coming out of your stove. The difference is the physical state that that material is being stored in, which means that a leak of that material generates a very large volume of that explosive gas. So this is not much different than the hazards that we dealt with Bakken crude oil, and I say not much different. I mean, I think that the conflict or the consternation about it is simple. We have an energy policy where we're trying to move energy, liquids, and gases from one point to another for consumption, export, or use in industry. And we have environmental and public safety concerns that sometimes are in conflict with that energy policy. And of course, our governments at all levels are trying to do what they can to balance those two. Probably before 2015, most of us didn't know what Bakken crude oil was. And then Lac-Mégantic happened, the tragic derailment in Canada at Lac-Mégantic of that train with a significant loss of life, and suddenly Bakken crude oil was on the front page. In reality, that oil was being shipped in that way for 2 to 3 years prior to that. It was that issue that brought it to the public's eye. In the case of this LNG natural transport, this has been an issue at some level for approximately a year. The federal government has been considering this challenge, and I should note that 2 months ago, natural gas, liquefied natural gas, could not be shipped by rail. There was not a rail body that was authorized to transport that material. And what has happened very recently that I think has brought this back to the front page is that the Federal Department of Transportation, which is the entity that authorizes rail transportation of commodities, has approved the use of a rail car for this purpose. It's a DOT 113 car, which probably means nothing to most listeners. What I would emphasize is it's a normal rail car that's traversing the rails today. However, they're mandating certain changes to those cars to make them more safer, a thicker tank shell, things like that are intended to address the hazard of the transport of this material in a bulk car. Today, the only way that liquefied natural gas is transported on a train is in a much smaller quantity in what's called an intermodal container, which kind of, for lack of a better term, looks like a small propane tank that you might see outside of a business, except it's in a steel framework and designed so that it can literally be lifted off a train and be put onto a flatbed truck for continued transportation. So I guess that's a very long story to help to hopefully educate the listeners about the challenge, about why it's being done. But the one last thing that I want to really emphasize is that really I'm unaware, and I'm not a legal scholar, so I could be wrong, but I'm unaware that the county has any means to oppose this. If the federal government authorizes the product for transportation by road or rail, then the product is allowed to be moved on the highways. And I don't believe that the county has a role in regulation of commerce in that regard, and there's little that can be done to change that. Of course, as an elected official, you can always call your federal representatives and try to use your influence that way. But I certainly don't believe that as an action of the commission as a government body, there's anything you can do about this. The last thing I want to mention, and I'm not 100% clear where Ms. Cates is getting her information, and she may be correct and I may be underinformed, but I actually don't believe that the proposed routes that New Fortress are bringing forward for moving this do travel through Berks County with respect to the road transportation. I believe that she is 100% correct about the rail transportation, but I don't think that the current plan is to move the product through Berks on the highways.
One additional item, doesn't LNG already move in specially designed tanker trucks on the highways?
Yes. Yeah. It is. It is a cryogenically stored liquid, ultra low temperature, needs to be refrigerated, moves very short distances. Because I'm sure that everybody's seen, and I hate to drop the name of a company, but it's one that's local and everybody knows, the Air Products trucks. Mm-hmm. You see these Air Products trucks going down the highway and it looks like they're leaking. There's material coming out of the back of the truck. That is because what's being carried in those trucks is cryogenics, and it is completely natural that as that material is no longer being compressed and refrigerated in transport, it expands and that pressure has to be left off and leak out of the truck. What we see being carried in those trucks, though, is atmospheric components, oxygen, nitrogen, argon, things that are already all around us, and that's why it's okay that they're able to leak out of the truck and in essence don't present a toxic domestic harm or something like that to the public that's in contact with them. But we get a few 911 calls a year reporting a truck going down the road leaking hazardous materials. In reality, it's a perfectly normal operation. Little different than this LNG transportation.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption, Commissioner Rivera, but I wanted to get that out of the way, and we'll go to Commissioner Rivera.
Yep, that's fine. Not a problem. I just have one thing to comment. I just want to touch on Jesse Royer's question in reference to the Restart program. So the Restart program does not have a nonprofit component to it. The Restart program is a CDBG, which is a Community Development Block Grant dollars, and that can only be used for for-profit businesses. The CARES Act money, which is where the New Start program came from, is money that is available then for the nonprofits and for the schools, which is what Commissioner Barnhart was talking about. So I know all these names get a little bit confusing and where the money comes from, but the Restart grant comes from Community Development Block Grant funds, and the New Start program together with the not-for-profit and money for educational institutions come from the CARES Act money. So just wanted to make that clarification there.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
The motion has been made to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Thank you.